From The Reporter, the paper of record for Delaware County, this is Off the Record, a quick look at the latest county news. I'm Andrew Kantor, and this week we've got a last-minute save for dairy farmers and the county fair, ATVs on the roads of Colchester, lots of money maybe coming to Sidney, and more. So let's get to it. We'll start with last week. We told you how local dairy farms were left scrambling when Worcester creameries suddenly stopped buying their milk. Franklin farmer Garrett Sitz, whose family has shipped milk to Worcester since 2007, called it, quote, no reason, no warning, just a deadline. Let's just say the dairy farmers of America might have been involved. But there's good news, a save. 7 Delaware County farms, including Garrett Sitz's, have signed on with Clover Farms in Reading, Pennsylvania. They are keeping their hauler, their inspector, and, as Sitz puts it, I get to milk another day. The news gets better. The Delaware County Fair got lucky too. After nearly losing a buyer for its exhibitor milk, thanks to the DFA, Walton-based Lactalis stepped in. Woohoo! Jason Craig, who is president of the County Fair Board, he called Lactalis the rock star of the story. In case you haven't noticed, it has been raining a lot, and that is not good for cutting hay. Farmers around the county are basically sitting and waiting. They can't cut the hay because the fields are muddy and the tractors get stuck. And even if they didn't get stuck, hay can't be baled until it's dry. So it's a lot of that sitting and waiting and hoping the sun will stay out for a while. In Bovina, town officials are weighing whether to harvest the ash trees that are on public land. It could bring in $60,000, but they have to do it before the trees get infested by the emerald ash borer. Trustee Dominic Gullo supports the idea, but he says it's hard to get firm estimates without first getting, and paying for, a land survey. And not everyone's on board with the idea anyway. Michael Kaufman, who lives on Yankee Road, said that cutting the trees above his property could worsen runoff and flooding, and that's a problem he says is already getting worse thanks to all the recent rain. Council members agreed something needs to be done before the trees die, but they stopped short of making a decision. They're hoping to get better information before their next meeting, and that's when they'll look into having that survey done and see if it's worth cutting down the trees. At a recent meeting in Andes, resident Lisa Marassa asked the town to lower chlorine levels in the water supply. She says her tap water burned the leaves of her pepper plants and is turning blonde hair green, but she didn't say whose blonde hair. Town officials say the chlorine level is usually between 1 and 2 milligrams per liter, and that's well under the federal limit. We looked into it ourselves, actually. We found that most cities use between 0.5 milligram per liter and 1.5 milligram per liter. So Andes is a teeny bit on the higher side, but well within regulation. And the green hair? It's actually not from chlorine. It's copper, probably just from household water pipes that causes the color change. Chlorine just makes hair more porous, so the copper can kind of stick better. Anyway, officials say they're going to take a look and see if there is a safe way to dial the chlorine levels back a little. Officials in Colchester were talking about ATVs and UTVs in town. James Novello, who is working on forming a formal riding club there, he had to remind them that yes, off-road vehicles are allowed on town roads thanks to a law those very officials passed last year. But here's a sort of twist. The council approved having off-road vehicles on town roads because 1, it was supposed to connect parts of a trail system, and 2, because there are a bunch of safety rules the riders have to obey. So, about that trail system. In order to develop it, there needs to be a formal club, mostly to have insurance, and that's what Novello is working on, but he explained that it's harder to do that if officials are giving riders misinformation about the law. In one case, an official told a rider that it was illegal to have an ATV on a town road, and that, Novello said, is just not true. The good news is there haven't been a lot of complaints about ATVs in the last 18 months, and we're talking 5. But the council members insisted there are probably a lot more, they just weren't official complaints. Council member Julie Markert even claimed that riders were, quote, flying up and down River Road at 10:30 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, unquote, but apparently she never complained to anyone about it until the meeting. Well, everyone agreed, though, that the riders need to be sure they're behaving, and hopefully the official riding club and the trails will get the ATVs off town roads, and everyone will be happy. Good news out of Sidney. More than a dozen homeowners could get some serious help fixing up their houses thanks to a $750,000 state grant the town is applying for with the help of Delaware Opportunities. If the town gets it, the money would go to low and moderate income homeowners for major repairs, things like removing lead paint, fixing plumbing or heating, basically making their homes safer and more livable. Each household could get $45,000 to $50,000 if they qualify, and there are some income restrictions, and the houses themselves need to actually be repairable. The best part, it won't cost the town a dime. Delaware Opportunities is handling the application, and if Sidney gets the grant, Delaware Opportunities will do the home evaluations, the homeowner evaluations, and then manage distributing the money. When could it happen? The town should know around Christmas exactly how much, if anything, it'll get from the state, and the money should start flowing to homeowners in early 2026, letting work begin in the spring. Oh boy, Andy's and its parking problems. Another week, more drama. Look, it is such a convoluted mess over there, I'm not even going to try to sum it up here. You're going to have to read the paper. There are actually 2 stories about parking in Andy's this week. You know where to go. It's the-reporter.net. In Bovina, the town's draft comprehensive plan is done, but apparently not done, and that is causing tension. At the latest council meeting, Highway Superintendent Ed Weber, who also sits on the planning board, asked why planning board members hadn't seen the draft plan. He was told they'll get to see it after the town board finishes reviewing it, even though 2 planning board members helped write the thing. Weber wasn't thrilled, and he pointed out that the last time boards worked together. Council members insisted the plan isn't final, and Supervisor Tina Mole promised Weber he'd have, quote, plenty of time, eventually, once the town board finishes keeping it to themselves. And Tina Mole would never, ever bend the truth. About 500 people gathered in Delhi on June 14th as part of the nationwide No Kings protest. It was one of thousands across the country to push back against the Trump administration's authoritarian policies. Speakers at Delhi's rally, which was held in Courthouse Square, they touched on issues ranging from LGBTQIA. Did I get those all? Yeah, LGBTQIA. Okay. LGBTQIA rights, immigration, anti-poverty programs, and presidential overreach in general. They all pointed out that resisting injustice isn't just patriotic. These days, it's necessary. There were American flags, handmade signs, plenty of strong words, but the message was clear. We don't do kings in this country. After the speeches, the crowd took to the sidewalks along Main Street. They held their signs, they waved their flags, supporters honked, critics honked, and either way, people showed up, and they made noise. And that's it for this week's Off the Record, but there's plenty more in The Reporter, in print or online. Head over to the-reporter.net. Like how Delaware County's social services is drowning in paper files, why the county's tax revenue is way up, how Sidney might look to cut Roundup use, and more. Until next week, I'm Andrew Kantor. Thanks for being here.